Far beneath the frozen peaks of Skyrim, past the veins of Dwemer metal and the roots of mountains themselves, there stirs a presence few mortals ever see, and fewer still survive. They move in the dark, whispering in the tongue of madness, their pallid skin glimmering faintly in the torchlight. Their eyes are gone, long since melted away by centuries in the black. To the surface world, they are known as the Falmer, the blind, corrupted remnants of the once proud Snow Elves. The Falmer are one of the most disturbing tragedies in all of Tamriel's history. People so ancient, so majestic, that their civilization predates Skyrim itself, and yet they were doomed to live forever beneath it. Their story is not just about survival, but about transformation. About what happens when a race loses its freedom, its vision, and ultimately, its soul. Before the Nords came from Atmora, before Ysgramor, before the Companions, Skyrim belonged to the Snow Elves. They were not the brutish creatures we see today. Ancient texts and ruins suggest that they were grateful, intelligent, and deeply spiritual. Their temples were carved from ice and crystal. Their songs echoed through frozen halls, and their culture thrived in harmony with Skyrim's frozen wilds. But history, as always, is written by the victors. When Ysgramor and his followers arrived from across the sea, the Snow Elves greeted them not with war, but with curiosity. For a time there was peace, but peace is a fragile thing in Skyrim. It shattered in blood at Sarthal, when the Elves, fearing the growing power of the human settlers, slaughtered the Nords in their sleep. What followed was Ysgramor's revenge, one of the bloodiest campaigns in Tamrielic history. The Nords drove the Snow Elves from their homes, burning their temples, seizing their lands, and reducing their people to scattered remnants. It was the first fall of the Falmer, and it would not be the last. With their civilization collapsing, the surviving Snow Elves sought refuge in the only place left to them, the underground cities of the Dwemer, or Deep Elves. But the Dwemer were not saviors. They were scientists, slavers, and cynics. They offered shelter at a cost. In exchange for safety, the Snow Elves were forced to consume a strange toxic fungus that grew only in the depths. This fungus would allow them to survive underground, but it did have a side effect. It blinded them permanently. Over time, their bodies changed to match their new environment. Their skin grew pale, their ears elongated, and their minds fractured. They became servants, slaves to the Dwemer. They tended the machines, dug the mines, and built the cities of their new masters. Centuries passed, and with each generation, their memory of sunlight faded, their language twisted, and their souls darkened. When the Dwemer mysteriously vanished from the world, the Falmer were left behind, blind, furious, and broken. They inherited the ruins of their oppressors and turned them into kingdoms of horror. The Falmer that inhabit Skyrim today are almost unrecognizable from their ancestors. They live in sprawling networks of tunnels and ruins, breeding in darkness, their society reduced to primal hierarchy. They are ruled by chieftains and Falmer warmongers, served by Charus, and sustained by violence. Their vision is gone, but their other senses are heightened. They hear the faintest footstep. They smell blood through stone and communicate through guttural screeches. The Falmer's blindness is not just physical, it's symbolic. They have lost all sight of their former selves. And yet, even in their degeneration, there are hints of what they once were. The carvings on their walls echo the designs of ancient Snow Elf temples. Their weapons, though crude, still bear traces of elven craftsmanship. Their shrines, dedicated to gods long forgotten, suggest that a fragment of their old faith still lingers in the dark. They are not merely beasts. They are the ghosts of a civilization that refuses to die. The relationship between the Falmer and the Dwemer is one of the most haunting dynamics in Elder Scrolls lore. It's a story of betrayal disguised as mercy, of proud people made slaves by those who promised salvation. The Dwemer's logic was cruelly pragmatic. Why destroy your enemies when you can enslave them? Why kill the snow elves when you can break them down piece by piece until they forgot they were ever free? In doing so, the Dwemer unwittingly created their own destroyers. When the Dwemer vanished, their disappearance still one of Tamriel's greatest mysteries, the Falmer inherited their tunnels. They became the new rulers of the underground world, but they did not inherit the Dwemer's intellect or purpose. They inherited only the ruins of their pain. Now the Dwemer's once grand halls are filled with screams instead of gears and gold. Their legacy is not progress, it's vengeance. And in a dark, poetic way, the Falmer are the Dwemer's punishment, a living reminder that cruelty breeds monsters. For most adventurers in Skyrim, the first encounter with the Falmer is unforgettable. Perhaps it happens in Blackreach when the faint glow of mushrooms gives way to the sound of skittering claws. Wherever it happens, the reaction is always the same: shock, fear, and fascination. The Falmer are unlike any other enemy in the game. They move unpredictably, fight savagely, and seem to sense your presence long before you see them. Their attacks are sudden, their weapons coated in poison, their armour made from the carapaces of Chaurus insects. Every battle against them feels desperate, not because of their strength, but because of their sheer inhumanity. They are a mirror of what the player could become, consumed by survival, stripped of compassion, surviving in the darkness. But in the mythic language of Skyrim, blindness means more than the loss of sight. It means a loss of truth as well. The Falmer's blindness is a metaphor for their ignorance of what they once were. They cannot see the stars, the sun, or their own reflection. They cannot see the beauty of the world they lost, nor the horror of what they've become. In that way, the Falmer's condition mirrors the blindness of others in Skyrim. The political blindness of the Empire, the moral blindness of the Thalmor, the ideological blindness of the Stormcloaks. Everyone in Skyrim is, in some way, blind to their own faults. The Falmer simply make that metaphor literal. They remind the player that all civilizations, no matter how grand, can be reduced to savagery if they lost their sight, their vision of what matters. The Falmer are not merely monsters. They are victims, survivors, and symbols. Their story is one of the most haunting in the Elder Scrolls series, because it forces the player to confront the uncomfortable truth that evil is often born from suffering. They remind us that the line between civilization and savagery, between light and dark, is fragile, and that anyone given enough time in the shadows can forget who they once were. In the grand tapestry of Skyrim's lore, the Falmer are the thread that ties tragedy, horror, and history together. They are people who once touched the stars, only to end up crawling in the dirt. A mirror for every empire that thought itself eternal. When you slay a Falmer in the dark, you're not killing a monster, you're killing a memory, a fragment of a civilization that the world chose to forget. And perhaps that's what makes the Falmer so betrayed and so curious. Not their blindness and not their cruelty, but their persistence. Even in the deepest dark, they endure. The Falmer's existence poses an unsettling question. What happens to people who are completely erased from history? No bards sing of the Snow Elves, no Jarl mentions them. Their temples are buried, their names unspoken. The world above has forgotten they ever lived. In that sense, the Falmer are not just physically underground, they are buried by memory. Skyrim is a world obsessed with heroism and legacy. I've said it all before. The Dragonborn is celebrated, the Nords cling to ancient traditions, and even the Dwemer are remembered through their ruins. But the Falmer, they are the nightmare history refuses to confront. Their presence in the game serves as a silent warning that the line between civilization and savagery is thinner than anyone dares to admit. When you walk through their halls, you can almost feel the echo of the laughter, the whisper of old prayers, and beneath it all, a sense of profound sorrow, because even monsters remember what it feels like to be human.